Everything Marcus Ellison owned disappeared overnight. Once he had mansions, cars, and respect. Everyone admired him. But then, a lie spread like wildfire. His wife said terrible things about him, and the world believed her. Friends left. Money vanished. Even strangers whispered, "There goes the monster." Marcus was crushed. He went from powerful to powerless in days. With only $500 left, he wandered the city, lost and alone. His name, once famous, was now a curse. Where would he go? What would he do? No one wanted him anymore. Marcus felt like a shadow. But destiny, waiting quietly, had something different planned, and it all began with one old car. $500, the seller said. Marcus stared at the old Cadillac. Its paint peeled, its windows cracked. But it called to him. He pressed his last money into the man's hand. Now it was his. A 1937 Cadillac, rusty, broken, forgotten. That night, Marcus slid into the back seat. The leather was torn. The smell was sharp, like dust and oil. He pulled his jacket tight and whispered, "This is all I have." Once people clapped when he entered rooms. Now he was alone in the silence. But Marcus didn't know this old car held a secret that would change everything, a secret buried deep inside the cracked leather seat. Cold nights, the first nights, were the hardest. The Cadillac was no palace. Its seats poked his back. Cold air slipped through broken windows. Trucks roared past, shaking the car. Marcus curled into his jacket, using it as a pillow. Kids sometimes threw rocks at the car, calling him the homeless man. His heart ached, but he stayed silent. Each morning he rose early, searching for work. He carried boxes, swept dusty floors, and took jobs no one wanted. People whispered, "That used to be Marcus Ellison." They laughed, not cruelly, but carelessly. Marcus swallowed the pain. Yet deep inside, a spark glowed. A voice whispered, "You're not finished yet." Chapter 4. Heavy heart Marcus worked until his hands blistered. Still, whispers followed him everywhere. People remembered his fall, not his rise. At night, he returned to the Cadillac. He gripped the steering wheel, pretending he was still in control. Hunger gnawed at him, but loneliness hurt more. Then one evening, he saw a shop window. On the TV, his ex-wife smiled. The screen read, "Her triumph." Marcus's chest burned. Lies had stolen his life, yet he said nothing. Rock bottom isn't just hunger. It's silence so loud it hurts your ears. Marcus knew it well. He thought he'd lost everything. But life was about to surprise him in the most unexpected way. One rainy evening, Marcus slumped into the Cadillac, too tired to move. The cracked leather pressed against his side. Something hard poked him. A lump, he frowned. What was it? Curious, he tugged at the seam. The stitches resisted, but his fingers dug deeper. Rip! The fabric tore. Something heavy slid out, wrapped in cloth. Marcus's heart pounded. He unwrapped it slowly. Inside lay a chunk of metal, dull, dirty, useless. He rubbed it with his sleeve. Suddenly gleam. A golden spark danced in the light. His breath caught. Could it be? No, it couldn't. Could it? Marcus held it tighter. His life might be about to change. The next morning, Marcus hurried to a small pawn shop. The bell jingled as he stepped inside. A bearded shopkeeper squinted at the chunk. "Where'd you get this?" he asked. Marcus shrugged. "Does it matter?" The man rubbed it on a testing stone. Then he leaned forward, eyes wide. "Son, this is gold." "Pure gold." Marcus froze. His heart raced. "Gold? Here? In that broken car?" He laughed nervously, half afraid it was a joke. But when the man placed it on the scale, the numbers shone back. Real, heavy, priceless. Marcus wrapped it carefully. For the first time in years, hope burned in his chest. Marcus staggered back into the street, clutching the bundle. Cars zoomed by. People rushed past. But Marcus stood still, staring at the Cadillac. Once it had been his prison. Now it looked like a treasure chest, a vault on wheels. What if there was more inside? What if this car wasn't just broken junk, but a secret gift? His heart thumped. For the first time in forever, the future didn't feel dead. It felt alive. He whispered to himself, "This isn't the end. This is the beginning." The Cadillac, once a coffin of failure, had become his lifeline. Destiny had just knocked on Marcus's door. Marcus didn't sell everything at once. He was careful. He sold tiny pieces, one at a time, in different shops. Each sale brought money, enough to eat, enough to breathe. No more sleeping hungry. No more empty pockets. With his first savings, he bought a shuttered repair shop. Everyone else saw garbage, broken walls, rusty tools, dust everywhere. But Marcus saw opportunity. He had turned scraps into gold before. He could do it again. Day by day, he cleaned, scrubbed, and fixed. He worked with the same hands that once signed million-dollar deals. Grease replaced ink. Sweat replaced luxury. But hope replaced despair. Marcus was building again. At first, people didn't trust Marcus. Some whispered, "Isn't that the man who lost everything?" Others laughed. But when he fixed one woman's car, her engine purred like new. Her eyes widened. She told her friends. Word spread. Slowly, customers returned. At first curious, then impressed. Marcus worked hard. He greeted everyone kindly. No job was too small. Every handshake was sincere. People started to forget the headlines. They remembered his skill instead. The shop grew busier. The sound of tools, engines, and laughter filled the air. The man who once lived in a broken car was becoming trusted again. Piece by piece, bolt by bolt, Marcus was rising. Again, money trickled in. Enough to survive, enough to dream. Marcus expanded carefully. He began moving goods in trucks, small contracts, nothing grand. But each one stacked like bricks in a foundation. His name, once cursed, started to appear again. Not as a scandal. As a survivor, investors who had fled now circled back, curious. Marcus welcomed some, but he never forgot the ones who abandoned him. 2 years passed. His shop grew into a business. His business grew into a company. And through it all, he remembered the Cadillac, the place where it started. The car that once sheltered his darkest nights was the reason he stood again. Of truth rumors began swirling. Court records leaked. Friends of Marcus's ex-wife confessed. They had helped her lie. Photos surfaced, fake bruises, edited stories. Slowly, the truth unraveled. The woman who had ruined him was being unmasked. Sponsors pulled away from her. Supporters doubted her words. Marcus didn't chase revenge. He didn't need to. He focused on his work. He restored the Cadillac piece by piece, polishing chrome, stitching leather, shining headlights. To him, the car wasn't just metal. It was memory. It was proof he had survived. Every bolt he tightened whispered, "You made it through." The Cadillac was no longer broken. Neither was Marcus. The day came when the Cadillac gleamed. Its paint shone like a mirror. Its leather smelled fresh, strong. Marcus stood back and smiled. This was more than a car. This was his crown. Once kids had thrown rocks at it. Now people stopped to admire it. Strangers asked, "Who restored this beauty?" And Marcus would grin, knowing the answer. This car had once cradled his broken heart. Now it carried his triumph. The Cadillac had transformed from coffin to crown, from silence to music. And soon the world that had mocked Marcus would see him return, not with anger, but with strength no one could ever take again. One morning, an invitation arrived. A grand gala in the city. Marcus stared at it. Years ago, he would have laughed. Galas had been his playground. But now, he hesitated. Was he ready? He looked at the Cadillac. Its polished hood reflected his face, not the broken man, but the man who had risen. Marcus straightened his shoulders. Yes, he was ready. He tailored a sharp black suit, polished his shoes. On the night of the gala, the Cadillac purred as it rolled through glowing streets. Crowds gasped. "Look at that car!" But gasps turned to whispers when Marcus Ellison stepped out, stronger, smarter, unbroken. Turn. The ballroom glittered with lights. Diamonds sparkled. Cameras flashed. But all eyes turned when Marcus walked in. People whispered in awe, "That's Marcus Ellison!" I thought he was finished. He stood tall, his chin high, his smile calm. He shook hands, exchanged greetings, but inside he felt something different. Not pride, peace. He had survived storms. Nothing could shake him now. As he moved through the crowd, conversations hushed. Marcus had returned, not as the man he once was, but as the man he was always meant to be. And then across the room he saw her, his ex-wife, the one who had ruined everything. She glided through the crowd in silk, smiling like a queen. But when her eyes met Marcus's, her mask cracked. The woman who had once been celebrated now looked cornered. Headlines questioned her lies. Sponsors abandoned her. Whispers spread like fire. Marcus didn't approach her. He didn't need to. Instead, he raised his glass across the room. A silent message. Truth always wins. She froze, trembling. The crowd, once hers, now belonged to him. Marcus turned away, calm and strong. Revenge wasn't his victory. His survival was. The woman who built her empire on lies was crumbling. Marcus had built his on truth. By the end of the night, people swirled around Marcus, shaking his hand, praising his return. Amazing comeback. Truly inspiring. We'd like to invest. He listened politely, but his heart stayed steady. He wasn't chasing money anymore. He wasn't chasing applause. He was chasing purpose. He had rebuilt not just his life, but himself. Marcus drove home that night in the Cadillac. The same car that had once been his shelter was now his crown. The engine hummed steady under the city lights. Marcus Ellison wasn't broken anymore. He wasn't lost. He was alive, stronger than ever, and ready for whatever came next. Marcus sat behind the wheel, smiling softly. He remembered the silence of those nights, the hunger, the shame, the loneliness. And now he remembered the spark that had whispered, "You're not finished." He realized something important. The gold wasn't the true treasure. The Cadillac wasn't either. The treasure was resilience, strength, the power to rise again after being crushed. That was his real fortune. He had discovered gold under the seat, yes, but he had also discovered gold inside himself. Marcus whispered into the night, "Never give up, even when the world turns its back." And his heart answered, steady and strong. Marcus built again. His company grew. Not fast, not flashy, but steady, honest, strong. People respected him not for the wealth he once flaunted, but for the character he now carried. His story spread, of the man who lost everything, slept in a car, found hidden gold, and rose again. Newspapers called it the comeback of the century, but Marcus didn't care about titles. He cared about people. He treated workers kindly. He helped the poor. He donated quietly. His empire wasn't built on lies or greed. It was built on truth, and that truth made him untouchable. Every evening, Marcus polished the Cadillac. He kept it shining not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The car told his story better than any book. Kids who once mocked him now pointed at it in awe. People who whispered lies now whispered admiration. That's Marcus Ellison. He came back stronger. The Cadillac purred, carrying him forward. Once it was a shelter for a broken man. Now it was the crown of a king. And every time Marcus touched its hood, he remembered the secret it once held. Gold, yes, but also the spark of hope that rebuilt his soul. Marcus parked the Cadillac on a hill overlooking the glowing city. He stepped out, breathing deeply. The lights below sparkled like stars. Once this city had cursed his name. Now it whispered his triumph. Marcus smiled. Not the smile of pride, but of peace. He had survived the silence, the lies, the hunger, the shame, and he had risen. The Cadillac stood beside him, gleaming like a crown under the moon. "I was buried," Marcus whispered, "but I found gold." His story wasn't about revenge. It was about resilience. He had lost everything, but he had found himself.